What is the fastest way you've seen a room full of happy people turn ugly? When it was announced our community bank was being acquired by Wells Fargo and 85% of people were going to lose their jobs. Edit. The announcement was made during the end-of-year managers meeting where bonuses, Christmas party festivities, etc. were discussed. No bonuses, no Christmas party. Most people just got severance for the holidays.
That sounds rough. Losing a job right before the holidays can hit hard. I remember when a friend went through something similar. They were told their company was downsizing during a celebration meeting. Everyone was just there to enjoy the moment, and then it turned so grim. It felt like a huge letdown, especially after all the talk about bonuses and parties. Just a tough situation all around.
One day at work, we had an hour meeting followed by a planned pizza party as a reward for meeting some safety goal. They've been telling us all week not to worry about food because they were getting pizza. Well, after the meeting, we're sitting around waiting for the pizza to get there when Outboss comes in and tells us there was a failure of communication and no one actually ordered the pizza. If you want to see 50 factory workers go from excited to murder ready in less than a second, that's what you tell them.
That sounds rough. I can just picture the room going from cheerful to tense in an instant. Everyone looks forward to those small perks at work, especially after a long meeting. It's funny how a little pizza can change the vibe completely. I guess it's a reminder to double-check plans beforehand. Hope they figured something out quickly, or that could have been a long, hungry day.
At my work, we host weddings. A few years ago, the groom and one of our waitresses were caught having sex on the 9th green by the maid of honor. The 180-degree turn of drunk happy people to incredibly angry drunk people was insane. The families were screaming at each other. The bride was crying. The mother of the bride was crying. The dad was being held back cause he was going to kill the groom. Understandable. We ended up calling the police. They came and escorted the groom's family out the door. Some of the smart groom's family took off right away when they heard. It all happened within an hour. We call the incident night putting.
That sounds like a wild night. I can imagine all the chaos that must have unfolded. One minute you're enjoying a wedding, the next it's total mayhem. It's crazy how quickly things can change. Not sure how anyone involved felt after that. I guess some stories just stick with you, though. Night Pudding sounds like a memorable title for what must have been a nightmare for the couple.
During bar trivia, the question was, what was the biggest fish in Finding Nemo? The answer was blue whale. Whales aren't fish. People started yelling at the guy that whales are mammals. They said it was in the water, so it counted as a fish. I asked if the dentist was a fish since he was in the water. That Applebee's just barely avoided a riot that night.
That's a classic mix-up. Trivia nights can get intense, especially when people start arguing about the definitions. The whole whale versus fish debate really brings out some strong feelings. Your line about the dentist was smooth, though. It's funny how small things can escalate in a crowded place. Applebee's probably isn't the ideal place for a science debate, but it made for a memorable night.
Pub quiz. Everyone was a bit boozed up. Announcer, who was universally hated and considered a massive bellend by everyone, made the controversial call to disallow a debatably correct answer. The answer given by everyone was Jessica Ennis, the Olympic athlete from England. But she had gotten married 2 weeks before the quiz, and so her official name was Jessica Ennishill, which was the only accepted answer. 2 teams actually walked out after shouting abuse at the guy running the quiz, and everyone else booed.
Sounds like a rough night at the pub. Everyone was in good spirits, and then that guy had to ruin it with a technicality. It's wild how a name change can lead to that much tension. Seeing teams walk out must have been something else. Sometimes the rules just don't sit right, especially when everyone feels the same way. Guess some trivia nights can get out of hand real quick.
My extended family had a day at the lake. All day was nothing but happiness until we started cleaning up. Half of the family were on the lake and decided to play a prank on the rest of us, who were getting ready to go. They sent a voicemail that they were sinking and didn't have life jackets. There were kids on the boat who couldn't swim. My grandpa believed it, and when none of the nearby boat owners would let him borrow one to save his family, he stole a boat and went out to look for them. He, of course, found them safe and sound, and there was a huge fist fight when everyone got back. Some of them haven't spoken to each other since, and it's been years.
That's a wild story. It's funny how a prank can turn a good day into chaos. Your grandpa must have really freaked out. Stealing a boat is a pretty extreme move. It's crazy how something like this led to a rift in the family. People can hold on to grudges for a long time. It's strange how one moment can change everything. I wonder if they ever reconciled.
At a friend's funeral who had committed suicide, everyone was somber and respectful as the service went on, and the clergy talked about heaven and whatnot. The last speaker comes up and says, well, she may not be allowed in heaven because of the suicide, and how that's a terrible sin, yada, yada, yada. A huge portion of the family starts sobbing uncontrollably, and some outright walk out. Those that stayed were super angry and began to threaten the speaker. He had to be escorted from the funeral home by security. Edit. By security, I mean employees of the funeral home, not the armed guards at clubs. From what I understand of this guy, he was trying to discourage copycat suicides by not glorifying it and saying my friend was definitely in heaven like it solved all her problems. Certainly not the best way to go about it.
That sounds really intense. Funerals are already tough, and having someone say that can really change the atmosphere. I get the intention of trying to prevent others from taking similar actions, but it's a sensitive topic. The family was clearly hurting, and the last thing they needed was that kind of comment. It's sad how a moment meant for remembrance turned into chaos. People handle grief in different ways, and that guy clearly missed the mark.
They announced that in another 30 minutes, there would be another announcement about the status of our delayed flight. Edit. I am so sorry for all you poor souls who have dealt with long delays. My heart goes out to you. And yes, technically this doesn't fit because some people were already unhappy, but this was the tipping point for most at the airport that day.
Yeah, I've been there. Delayed flights can really test your patience. I once waited for hours, and every update felt like a tease. It's like they toy with your hope. Everyone around me started sharing their horror stories, and it just added to the frustration. You could almost feel the collective sigh when they mentioned another delay. It turned into a bonding moment, even though we were all just tired and annoyed.
I was volunteering at a dance at a teen center. Small town, everyone knows everyone. Night is going great, then we get a call that one of our friends was killed in a gang-related drive-by while getting a soda at a Sonic drive-in. Stray bullet, wasn't even intended for him, died in his girlfriend's arms. It wasn't so much that things turned ugly and sour, but the mood in the place did a 180. We turned the music off and just sat around, stunned.
That sounds really heavy. It's wild how quickly things can change. One moment, everyone is having a good time, and then it all hits you. Losing someone unexpectedly can just take the life out of a place. I remember a similar vibe at a gathering when a friend's family went through something rough. Everyone just sat there, feeling the weight of it. Sometimes silence says more than words.
Halfway through a wedding reception, lots of booze. Bandleader asks crowd to find out which man at their table has the nearest birthday. Ok, accomplished. Then, the bandleader says, each guy, give the flower centerpiece to the prettiest girl at the table. 11 other guys get it right and give it to their girl. The guy at our table, fairly inebriated, doesn't give it to his wife. He gives it to the prettiest girl at the table. Holy shit, the air got sucked out of the room. The wife is steaming. She looks ready to grab the vase and smash him in the face with it. The other, less pretty girls are fuming. The girl with the flowers has no idea what to do, but her boyfriend wants to kick the husband's ass. The rest of us are either horror-stricken or nervously laughing. We know we are all going to hear it. The tables nearby have seen/heard most of it, and the whispering spreads. The band starts to play, and the wife takes the opportunity to get louder before storming out. The party was over. He was just doing what he was told. Poor bastard.
You know, that kind of situation is just awkward for everyone involved. It's like a bad reality show playing out in real life. The guy probably thought he was doing something cool, but the consequences were brutal. Weddings are supposed to be fun, but one bad move can ruin the whole vibe. I guess we all learned a lesson that night about reading the room. Just stay chill and think before you act.
WAY, after Vanilla Ice's popularity, he played some shows at small bar-type venues. My friends and I decided to go, as a joke. The atmosphere in the place was really fun, and everybody was having an unusually awesome time. Vanilla Ice didn't go on when announced, and then the DJ took to the mic to announce that he had no-showed. The place instantly went into riot mode, yelling, cursing, pushing, and shoving. And then people started throwing beer bottles and breaking furniture. All the mirrors in the place got broken, and the DJ had to run out through the back door. Good times to a full-on riot in under a minute. Over Vanilla Ice. I still don't understand.
So, my friends and I thought it'd be funny to see Vanilla Ice perform at a tiny venue. Everyone was in a great mood until the DJ said he wouldn't show. That flipped the vibe completely. It turned into chaos fast, with people yelling and tossing bottles. Furniture got wrecked, and the DJ had to bail. It's wild how quickly things can spiral over something so unexpected. Still don't get why everyone cared that much.
My brother's birthday party. He had recently gotten engaged. My aunt in the loose commented to another relative that it was shame he hadn't found a nice policewoman. Brother is a policeman. His now wife's dad had just finished a long prison sentence to being a gangster and blamed her for his not being promoted in the distant future. Her friends overheard and it all kicked off. Both families waded in. It took a dozen off-duty policemen to separate everyone. They got married in Las Vegas and didn't invite anyone.
That sounds messy. Family gatherings can get awkward, especially with sensitive topics. Mixing relationships and past issues isn't a good recipe. It must have been a wild scene with all those off-duty cops. The Vegas wedding seems like a fitting escape from all that drama. Keeps things simple with no extra noise from family. Sometimes it's just easier to keep it low-key and out of the spotlight.
April Fool's Day, 2009, everyone at the dealership I was working at gets called into the shop for an important meeting. We all assume it's going to be something silly. The owner informs us that the dealership has gone out of business effective immediately and for everyone to pack up their stuff and wait to be escorted out of the building. We just stood there waiting for someone to shout, "April Fools." It never happened, and the building stands empty to this day.
That's a rough way to find out your job is gone. I can imagine everyone looking around, expecting a punchline that never came. Just a regular day turning into a life change like that. It must have hit hard since you probably had a routine and people you worked with. Now an empty building? That leaves a different kind of vibe. Makes you think about how quickly things can change.
Group of friends, everyone's having some drinks and laughing and generally enjoying the night. Then one guy gets too drunk. He starts loudly telling another guy in the group all about how he fucked the girl that his friend has a crush on. Positions what she looked like, just uncomfortable detail. The friend looks heartbroken and asks him to stop, and he does, briefly. Then comes back with more description, hysterically laughing at the other guy's pain. The whole room was tense and quiet except for Drunky McDrunkface going on and on about laying into a girl that his friend is in love with.
That sounds pretty rough. I've seen something like that happen too. One night, a buddy got way too hammered and just couldn't hold back. He started spouting off about a girl my other friend liked, going into details no one needed. The mood shifted really quick. You could feel the discomfort in the room. It was awkward for everyone, but he just kept laughing it off, oblivious to the damage he was causing.
At a 21st birthday party several years ago, having a big house party, music blaring, drugs and alcohol in abundance, good times being had by all. Then some dudes driving by hear the noise and decide to crash the party. While trying to be nice and kick them out politely, one of them says, "You can't kick us out," and flashes his gun. Never seen a party go from full-blown fun to where is everyone so quickly. Someone called the cops, and the assholes took off.
That sounds like a wild night. I can imagine the vibe shifting when the gun showed up. It's crazy how quickly a party can turn from fun to chaotic. I remember a similar situation where an unexpected fight broke out. Everyone just froze, unsure of what to do. In both cases, it's a reminder to always be careful about who you let in.
Was at a bar with my GF and a bunch of her work friends. Place was packed, and everyone is in a pretty good mood. Dude at the table next to ours was playing with some girls' keys and pushed what he thought was the on button to a small flashlight. In reality, it was a small can of mace that he ended up spraying into the air. Cleared out the whole bar with everyone coughing and crying.
That sounds like quite the night. Packed bar, good vibes, then chaos. The guy must have felt pretty dumb after, but I guess everyone got out okay. At least it makes for a wild story to tell later. It's funny how a little mishap can change the whole mood instantly. Bars can be unpredictable like that.
I was in the subway with my brother, and this old homeless guy was sitting there asleep. His dentures started falling off his mouth. All the passengers close by were chuckling and laughing at the old man, and plus that he smelled bad. That lasted for a while. I was young and too shy to do anything. My brother, I tried to wake him up nearing the terminus. Didn't move nor breathing. Checked his pulse and nothing. Guy was dead for a while. From laughs to dread feeling. We left the subway after alerting the security and staff.
That's a heavy story. Just goes to show how quickly things can change. One moment everyone's joking around, and the next, it's a serious situation. I can imagine how uncomfortable that must have felt for you and your brother. It's tough to see something like that unfold. You did the right thing by alerting the staff though. It's a reminder that life is unpredictable.
We were sitting at the adult table, eating our Easter brunch in the house of my ultra-religious brother's family. We were all laughing and recalling funny stories about relatives long gone, and after a sudden lapse in laughter, the room became dead silent when my son at the children's table screamed to his cousin, "There's no proof of God being real." Easter was pretty much over at that point. Dishes were cleared, cleaned, and we sulked out without much eye contact.
That sounds like a pretty intense moment. It's funny how one comment can shift the whole vibe, especially during family gatherings. Everyone's just enjoying themselves, and then bam, a reality check. The atmosphere probably felt pretty heavy after that. Kids can be so blunt, right? It really shows how unexpected moments can change everything. Sometimes you just have to move on and hope for a better round next time.
We were all called into a meeting. Rumor was that because we had had such a great year, we would all be getting an extra bonus. Excitement ensued, as bonuses were a rarity. The manager of the store clears his throat and a hush falls over everyone. Then he says the words we all should have known was coming. "We've been lying to you. It's been a terrible year. We're so far in the red we've no choice but to close shop. Tonight, you're all let go as of right now. Your final paychecks will be mailed to you. Do not come into work tomorrow." I turned to my keys and got out of there. There were some folks who had been there for close to 20 years who were blindsided by that.
That meeting is a tough one to go through. I've seen something similar happen to a friend where they thought they were getting good news, but it turned out to be the opposite. It's wild how quickly things can change. Seeing people who dedicated years to the job just like that lose everything is hard to watch. You think you're secure, then it all falls apart. Life can be unpredictable.
Is an airplane a room? Because I was stuck on a red-eye from LAX to Indianapolis with a screaming 3-year-old whose mother gave no shits. Over time, people got so agitated, they actually confronted the mother. It was Delta, and every single headrest had a monitor in it that had movies, games, and more. The woman simply gave no shits and literally ignored anyone who spoke to her.
That sounds pretty rough. It's frustrating when parents don't pay attention to their kids in public spaces, especially on long flights. People can get really agitated in close quarters. You'd think they'd want to keep the peace. The monitors could have helped, but it seems like that was not an option for her. Just a tough situation for everyone on that flight, really.
High school 2001. Everyone was laughing and making jokes about how stupid someone would have to be to accidentally fly a plane into a building. Teacher turned on the TV at the exact moment the second plane flew into the tower on ABC News. Not sure if that counts as being ugly and sour, but definitely changed the mood in the room from joking to we're going to hell.
That's a heavy moment. It's wild how quickly things can shift, especially in a classroom. 1 minute you're laughing, joking, and the next, reality hits hard. It's a stark reminder of how fragile life is and how unpredictable the world can be. I remember a similar shift in mood when something unexpected happened. It sticks with you and changes how you see things moving forward.
Every year, my school holds a Young Musician of the Year competition to determine who is the best musician at the school. Obviously, when I was younger, I attended fairly regularly, mainly out of laziness because it meant I got a ride home. One particular afternoon, it was the turn of the vocalists, and my friend and I were sat with some soda, ready to watch this terrified Year 7 girl sing. She's clearly petrified, and around halfway through the song, I decide to take a swig of my Coke. Bad idea. It goes down wrong, and I cough/choke in such a manner that it seems to the rest of the room that this douchebag 14-year-old is cracking up at this nervous little girl. Needless to say, I left abruptly after being glared at by 200 people.
That sounds intense. I remember a similar moment when my friend was performing and I accidentally laughed at the wrong time. Just like you, I ended up feeling like the worst person in the room. It's tough when you're just trying to enjoy something but misfire at the worst moment. The awkwardness sticks with you for a while, but at least it's a funny story later on.
In the elevator of Grant South at Northern Illinois University. This was a 12-story college dormitory with incredibly slow elevators. Folks who lived on the top floor would sometimes have to wait 20 to 30 minutes to get all the way to the lobby for dinner. The unspoken rule was if you live below the 5th floor, just take the damn stairs. So after the 5th floor stop, with the elevator car jammed like a Tokyo subway at rush hour, the mood would pick up noticeably. Next stop, lobby. But nobody told that unspoken rule to the deaf students who all lived on the 3rd floor. They'd get on, and everybody would silently hate on them so hard. One time, I heard a guy whisper in the back of the car, I guess the stairs must be broken. I turned around and said in normal voice, "Why are you whispering? They're deaf." And then somehow, I could feel all the hate transferring onto me. People are weird.
That's a familiar scenario. College dorms always had those quirks, right? I've been in similar situations where you just feel the tension in a crowded space. Everyone's thinking the same thing, but nobody says it out loud. I guess that guy didn't realize the irony of whispering. The whole thing is a mix of frustration and awkwardness. People tend to forget that everyone experiences life differently. Just another day in a dorm, I guess.
My sister's wedding. It was a small backyard wedding in Winnipeg, and most of the family flew in the morning of. My sister did not want bridesmaids, so after I helped her in her dress, I went and had a seat in the backyard and waited like everyone else for everything to start. Came music, and the husband-to-be walks down the aisle, and the justice of the peace is at the front, and we all just wait and wait and wait some more. Someone finally ran into the house to see WTF was going on and found a Dear John note, and my dear sister had fled the wedding. In about 5 minutes flat, it turned into a yelling match on what a piece of shit my sister was, and my dad and I looked at each other and also fled the scene. The groom himself was so mad, he was throwing chairs and just screaming like an ape. Super strange, and I could not get out of there fast enough. My sister ended up going on a 4-month bender of drugs and alcohol. We have never talked about the time she almost got married.
That sounds pretty intense. A backyard wedding turning chaotic isn't something you expect. Watching everything unfold, people getting mad, your sister just gone. I can see why you and your dad would want to escape. It must have been a rough time for the family afterward too, especially with her going on a bender. It's tough when things go south like that, and some moments just stay unspoken.
At the zoo, cute gorilla chilling right next to the glass, literally a foot from a small group of folks, from little kids to grandparents. Everyone was taking photos. It was fantastic. Then the gorilla reached just out of our vision, and its hand came back with a warm green glop of gorilla poop. Oohs and ahs turned instantly to groans of disgust and nervous laughter, and then the gorilla ate it. Just shoved the whole thing in its grinning mouth. People were gagging, kids were screaming. A couple crazed people were laughing uproariously. I was taking a video when it happened using Snapchat. This was legitimately my first snap. My only regret is that I didn't know how to download yet, so that video is now lost in the sands of time. But that memory will always have a place in my heart. Thank you, Franklin Park Zoo. Thank you.
That sounds wild. It's funny how quickly excitement can turn into disgust. Gorillas are interesting creatures, and to see something like that up close must have been memorable. Taking a snap of it makes it even more unique, even if it didn't save. Moments like these can be weirdly bonding too. At least you got to witness something unusual at the zoo. Franklin Park Zoo sure knows how to make an impression.
During a speech at a church in an uptight conservative town, my father mentioned how people are not having enough orgasms on a regular basis. Some booing and hollering began, which prompted the pastor to immediately walk over to him and direct him away from the altar. Nothing like watching your dad get put in a timeout.
That definitely sounds like a memorable moment. It's wild to see how people react to things that challenge their norms. Your dad probably had no idea that would happen. It's one of those moments where you can't help but feel a mix of embarrassment and amusement. Seeing a parent in that situation can make you see them in a different light. Just a reminder that everyone has their own views on what's acceptable.
Oh, here's another one. Green Day concert in Pittsburgh at the Old Mellon Arena, home of the Pens. We here in this side of Pennsylvania are proud of the Pens. Billy Joe looks up at a big banner that says, "Let's go Pens," and yells, "Let's go penis." LOL. I've never heard more boos till the Rumble debacle.
That's a funny moment. Concerts can get wild, especially when the energy is high. It's cool how fans support their teams, but it's even funnier when someone throws in a joke like that. The crowd's reaction must have been something else. It's moments like these that make live shows memorable, for better or worse. Just glad they could laugh it off and keep rocking.
We were at an annual pub quiz of a gaming and anime convention, and they were reading out team names. Firefly should have been canceled sooner, minus 15 points. The table stands up and does the anteater pose to a room full of booing nerds. A year later, there was a repeat performance with Edward Cullen is a better character than Batman.
That sounds like quite an event. It's funny how team names can stir up such strong reactions. The Anteater pose must have been a sight to see, especially with all the booing. It's interesting how people get so passionate about their favorite characters. I guess that's the spirit of conventions, though. Everyone's there to have fun and share their opinions, even if they aren't always popular ones.
Watching fireworks in my friend's cabin with his family. We were all sitting on the deck when a large shell tips over and shoots right at us. Thing goes zipping by our heads, banks off the cabin, shoot up in the air, and goes off about 20 to 30 feet over our heads. Really pretty, by the way. My buddy comes flying out of the cabin, fist pumping, screaming, "Oh fuck, why yay?" Everyone's face was kind of spooked, but then turned into laughter. Then we hear a voice whimpering and calling for help. Well, Grandma tried to move out of the way and fell off the deck and was bleeding on the backside of her head. Found out she broke her hip as well.
That sounds like a wild night. You think you're just there for some fireworks, then things get real quick. I can imagine the mix of panic and laughter when that shell zipped by. But wow, Grandma falling and getting hurt really puts a damper on it. It's funny how fast everything can turn. Paradox of fun and danger, I guess. Glad it wasn't worse, though.
I was at an anime convention, an 18-plus sort of trivia / Pictionary panel, where they selected players from the audience and quizzed them. Players were allowed to be totally candid and trash talk a bit. One of the male players told a female player to suck his dick, and when she told him he'd have to return the favor. He let it be known he doesn't give his female partners oral, as he felt it was disgusting, though is happy to receive it. The audience booed him pretty bad. The MC called him a selfish bastard and told him to get off her stage, and selected a new player for the game. Smiley face.
That sounds like a pretty wild moment. It's always surprising how people will go off in a casual setting like that. The guy really shot himself in the foot with his comment. Good on the MC for stepping in and calling him out. It's nice to see someone stand up for the other players in a fun way. It definitely must have changed the vibe for the rest of the event.
Was at a lesbian couple's apartment at a small boarding school I used to teach at. There were new faculty and were hosting a party. Other new faculty dude comes in and loudly proclaims, "Oh, my wife is practically a lesbian. She loves women. I get along great with dykes." He wasn't the best of hires.
Sounds like that guy missed the point completely. You go to a party to mingle and maybe make some connections, but he made it all awkward with that comment. It's funny how some people just can't read the room. Definitely not the best way to introduce yourself, especially in that setting. But the vibe changed real fast after that. Just goes to show how not everyone gets the whole respect and understanding thing.
I was at my cousin's wedding a few years ago. Everything was going great at the reception until another cousin found out that someone who had gotten him fired from a previous job was there as well. The other guy ended up making a scene and talking shit after my cousin tried ignoring him. My cousin's son, who is MR, didn't like the guy talking to his dad like that and started cussing him out and flipping him off. Turns out the other guy was part of the groom's family.
Sounds like a pretty tense situation. Family gatherings can get awkward quickly. It's wild how one person can spoil the vibe. Your cousin's son stepping in shows loyalty, but it probably didn't help smooth things over. Weddings should be about celebrating love, not dealing with drama. It's a memorable moment, but not in the way anyone would hope for.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.